Dear friends, dear Sangha, good morning. Today is November 26th, 2021. We are in the Dharma Center of Canada. This is day one of our first Sesshin here. We are in what I feel is heart of the cottage country. And perhaps this is also in some way a heart of Canada. It's hard not to think of the group of seven and the paintings. What is, perhaps if we think, what is it that is really Canadian? I think a lot of those things you can find here. Maple syrup, those beautiful paintings, and things like that. So this is also in some ways the heart of all of Canada. And this is a beautiful place in which we can practice our Sesshin for this year. As I said last night, my feeling for the Sesshin was this kind of gentle autumn rain. But instead we are having this first snow of the season. There's just a few snowflakes outside. And that is also beautiful. It can kind of, it's the similar feeling. It's a very gentle snowfall right now. There's just a few snowflakes coming down, and there's just a little bit of white powder on the ground. And the idea is that I want us to be able to absorb that quality into our meditation, so that our Sesshin also can take on some of that quality of peace and clarity. Normally in the Sesshins I would like for there to be a lot of energy and a lot of vigor and a lot of strength. This is in order to help people make breakthroughs in their practice. They can find it easier to withstand the rigors of the Sesshin and to find it easier to face whatever it is that they're facing on the meditation cushion. But I have a feeling this year, in this space, today, with just a few of us here, I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit of a different kind of Sesshin. I feel almost like I am on a vacation here in the cottage country. I have come for a weekend retreat out of the city. I know this is a very un-Sesshin-like thing to say. We kind of wash away the dust of the city and we are in the cottage country. And we have come here to listen to the sound of the birds and to look at the snow falling on cedar trees. This is our Sesshin, to just appreciate snow falling on cedar trees. Perhaps that is enough. If we can find contentment in that, then maybe we can find contentment in other things too when we return to the city. Yesterday I spoke about this balance. At the same time, this gentle kind of practice shouldn't be indulgent kind of practice. So there is also, my hope is that there is also a great deal of clarity. Clarity meaning seeing things as they are. And there is a kind of a sense of discipline that comes along with that. There's a sense of discipline that comes along with just the very structure of Sesshin. And I spoke how sometimes it is difficult, really, maybe quite advanced practice to mix those two things. the gentleness of the falling snow and the rigor of our meditation practice, and to kind of bring both qualities together at the same time in our meditation. And maybe this is not the easiest thing in the world. So from that perspective, I want to say something about silence itself. The silence, normally when you say, I'm going on a silent retreat, and people view this, you have to be very disciplined in order to be, it's a very difficult thing to be on a retreat and be silent and not talk at all. And you really have to discipline yourself and have to be very conscientious in not speaking. And this is true, but I don't want our silence here to be just that. There is definitely an element of that, because we are not used to it. But I want the silence that we are experiencing here and practicing here to be also an expression of when you come face to face with something truly beautiful and awe-inspiring, and perhaps the only appropriate response is to be silent. I want, when we are sitting in silence, to be that kind of silence, to be a silence of coming face to face with meaningful things, perhaps the things which are most meaningful in our lives. Perhaps the most appropriate response is with silence. So I'm hoping that we can practice that kind of silence. It is a tradition that the first Teisho of each Sesshin is on Mu, which is the first case of the Mumonkan, and I will do a Teisho on Mu yet again. Perhaps someday, maybe here, I have this idea of doing a traditional Teisho on Mu. A bit more traditional in terms of talking about how to work with Mu and how to bring power into Mu. But you have all heard that Teisho over and over again. So I feel when I'm preparing a Teisho on Mu for people like yourselves, veterans of practice, I feel I have to always bring something a little bit new. But maybe someday I can give a bit more traditional Teisho. And how it all fits together with our Sesshin. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start just by reading it. All of you are familiar. This is the first case of Mumonkan. A monk asked Joshu in all earnestness, "Does a dog have Buddha nature or not?" Joshu said, "Mu." And this is it. This is the whole exchange. Does a dog have Buddha nature or not? Joshu said, "Mu." Last night I spoke about the flow of the Sesshin and how this flow, the way we experience this flow, is by surrendering ourselves to practice. We are not picking and choosing anything. We are simply surrendering ourselves to the schedule and everything that it brings. We are surrendering ourselves to meditation and to this silence. This is no different than surrendering ourselves to Mu. The only way to experience Mu, to make any sense of Mu, is to become one with it. So the very context of this Sesshin is nothing other than practice of Mu. I spoke how this flow is not something that is happening to you as an individual. This is our common effort. This is something we do together. I frequently spoke in a Sesshin, it's a spirit of a single mountain. We sit not like a mountain, but we sit as a single mountain, as one mountain. When we become one with Mu, when we surrender to the flow of the Sesshin, we sit as a single mountain. It is one mountain practicing. And then whatever spiritual experience comes from that, this is something that happens to the mountain. This is not something that happens to you. If you awaken to Mu, it's the mountain that is awakening to Mu. So you don't need to carry any burden of that awakening. Simply, we let go of ourselves, and the mountain experiences itself. Of course, in other words, mountain is just another word for Mu. Now, why should we do this kind of practice? Why should we practice with Mu? And this is where I'm going to kind of a little bit deviate from the traditional Teisho on Mu. So I want to talk about different functions of our awareness and what it does for us. And then I want to bring it back to the practice of Mu. So why should we practice awareness? And what are different functions? And the first is to generate peace. When we become aware, we are automatically beginning to pacify things a little bit. So if we can practice awareness, we are generating peace in our own minds. Of course, we are also generating peace in the world and in the whole environment all around us. So the first function is to generate peace. And then the second function of awareness is to recognize things, to see things for what they are, and in this way to generate wisdom itself. I don't think it is possible to generate any kind of wisdom without awareness. Self-awareness, awareness of others, awareness of the world, awareness of the world of phenomena, and non-dual awareness, awareness of oneness of things, awareness of what is truly essential and necessary, what exists and what doesn't exist. Without this kind of awareness, we won't be able to generate any kind of wisdom. And then another function of this practice is to generate happiness, to know how to generate happiness for yourself and for others. I don't think we are very proficient. We are not very skilled. The only thing we really want is to be happy, but we don't know how. We're always groping in the dark. So we have to find a new way, a better way. And this is one of the functions of this practice, is to know how to generate a joy and happiness in your own mind. And then also to help others do the same. So to generate peace, to generate wisdom, to generate happiness. Another function of awareness is to generate equanimity, serenity of mind. And this also comes about through understanding. through understanding the world that we live in, to understanding the nature of mind, to understand the nature of human experience. Once we can do that, another function is to eliminate doubt and uncertainty. More closer we are introduced to the truth of the way, and let's call it the truth of Buddhist teachings, less confusion will be in our own minds. And the only way to do that is really through practice of awareness. And ultimately, I would say, the function of awareness is to generate fearlessness as a kind of a gateway to fearlessness, as a gateway to true courage and generosity and an open heart. And now everything I said, I purposefully phrased this in terms of why we should practice awareness, because whether you're an advanced practitioner or beginner, you have some way of knowing what that is, to be aware, and how to cultivate that awareness. This is something that is in some level instinctively accessible to all of us. But really what I'm talking about here, this why we should practice awareness, is exactly the same as why we should practice Mu. At some point, practice of awareness and practice of Mu becomes one and the same. This is not the case in the beginning. Perhaps a lot of water has to flow through the water mill before practice of awareness and practice of Mu become one and the same. So all of these things that I named as why we should practice awareness is really the same as why we should practice Mu. Now, here in this space, it's very interesting. I see photographs of many Tibetan lamas and teachers, and the first photograph there is of a Dalai Lama, and I have a quote here that I want to bring into this Teisho. And this is not a quote of Dalai Lama's, but it's a quote that he is using, that he used in trying to teach. And it kind of, he found it to be sort of the essence of the Buddhist path and the essence of our spiritual experience. So I'd like to offer that same quote. And this is from a Mahayana text called 400 Verses by Arya Deva. And I will read it to you. And this is a kind of the essence, the summary, the boiling down of our practice. And it goes as follows. First, to arrest the non-meriters. Next, to refute the self. Last, dissipate all opinions. Master this and you are a sage. This is the quote. I'll read it again. First, to arrest the non-meriters. Next, refute the self. Last, dissipate all opinions. Master this and you are a sage. I want to bring this quote into the practice of Mu and kind of bring it together. First, to arrest the non-meriters. This is the practice of discipline. Non-meriters is giving up all the things which are harmful to us. If we are always cultivating the things which are hurtful and harmful to us, it's very difficult to make any kind of spiritual headway. Second, to refute the self. We have to have a very clear, this is because the self is not a conceptual thing. And people try to reason it out. And there's a lot of philosophies, but at the end of the day, this is a kind of a feature of our consciousness. It's instinctive. It's a very basic way of perceiving things, a necessary thing, I would say, for human beings. It's also the one that comes with a lot of baggage. But we need to see the truth of it. We need to see what it really is for what it is. And we need to realize the selflessness of all phenomena, including ourselves. And then lastly, dissipate all opinions. And this last bit is quite difficult. So I want to now bring this into a practice of Mu, starting with this kind of narrow path. Let's call it narrow discipline of Mu. This is what is taught when we teach how to work with Mu. When we teach the technique of meditation, when we teach how to let go of our thoughts and how to return again and again and again to the same object of meditation. This is the discipline of Mu. When you are returning to Mu again and again and again. You are arresting in what Zen Master Mumonkan says, the ordinary mind. Here in his commentary, it is a tradition to read parts of his commentary on how to practice on Mu. And he says, to attain to marvelous enlightenment, you must completely extinguish all thoughts of the ordinary mind. At the very beginning of his Teisho, this is this discipline of Mu. This discipline, you're disciplining your own mind. Although you're having thoughts, you're not giving them domain over your mental landscape. You are gently letting them go and returning to the practice of Mu. And this Mu then arises in your mind as a dominant feature. And this is the discipline. This is the discipline of Mu. This is the kind of narrow path of working on a koan. And then the middle, bit of a wider path, is the Mu of no self. It is when Mu practices itself. It is when you have let yourself go and you're simply allowed Mu to be there by itself. There's no more struggle with who is realizing what. This is the practice of a single mountain. This is becoming one with the Sesshin. This is a selfless Mu. One single Mu in the whole universe, appreciating itself. And then finally, this really wide path that Aryadeva describes as dissipate all opinions. Difficult for us to even appreciate what that means. But this is what I like to call the Mu of spaciousness. This is where you have totally done away with truth and lies. You have done away with your own awakening, in a way. This is the practice that we find in the koan that I spoke about for the past 3 months, when a monk asks Joshu, I have nothing, what do I do then? And Joshu tells him, you have to let it go. And the monk says, but I have nothing. How can I let it go? And Joshu says, in that case, you have to carry it with you. What he's pointing to is this mood of spaciousness. That even when you have nothing, it's still just an opinion. It's your reality, but at some level it's still just your opinion. Even when you have let go of mu itself and realized nothingness, there's still further way to go. And this is a kind of boiling down and the essence of the Buddhist path. I want to read it again. It's interesting how it came together in this space. First, to arrest the nonmeriters. Next, to refute the self. Last, dissipate all opinions. Master this, and you're a sage. These are simple words. Words easy to disregard. Words easy to forget. Hard things to appreciate. And because we cannot do that, we have to do this awkward practice of sitting 10 hours a day. If we could appreciate this fully, then we wouldn't need to do this. And maybe 10 hours is not enough. Maybe we should get up at 3:30 the way they used to and go to bed at midnight. But if we could appreciate snow falling on cedar trees, then we could still do this practice. But we would do it because it's an expression of our vacation. We are on vacation. We are enjoying our beautiful cottage country here. So this is my Teisho for today, and we are going to continue. I'm hoping with your help, I want each one of you to bring your heart. There's few of us here, but bring the gentleness and clarity into this sesshin as much as you can. And I think it starts with how you treat yourself. I'm not worried about you being harsh to each other. I'm not concerned about that at all. I'm not worried about any of you being mean to another person here. I want you, but at the same time, it's not the practice of self-indulgence. There has to be a very crystal clarity to that gentle, soft touch of meditation. Okay, so we will do the 4 great vows now, and then we will start with Dokusan's.